Hello, I'm Nick Doran. I'm a software engineer, and because I'm not so good with graphics, I'm interested in language games. So, for NotGDC, I'll be talking about crossword puzzles for almost any language. I can't possibly claim to cover every language, but I'm trying to cover a lot, even ones that I don't know at all. So, you probably think that you know and understand crossword puzzles pretty well. Maybe you've seen them at school, maybe you do the Sunday Times crossword. But actually, crossword puzzles have a really bizarre history if you look into it. For example, the New York Times never wanted to do crossword puzzles. And then after Pearl Harbor, literally like weeks after Pearl Harbor, they said, look, we're getting into some serious stuff right now with World War II, and we're going to put it in the Times so people have something to do during blackout hours and things like that. So you'll be surprised what you'll learn about crosswords. So this is a few years ago now. I went to Myanmar to work on a project that helped with the democratic process there. And I got really fascinated by Burmese language because no one really expected me to know it, but it was interesting to learn more about it and how they kind of do things and how to support it technology wise. And I started to wonder, could I make a game in Burmese based on my limited knowledge? And if you haven't gotten familiar with Unicode, there's a lot to kind of tackle, but just to kind of give you a little bite-sized uh, technology nightmare here. If you were making a crossword for this word, Mingalaba, you probably see four letters because they're either connected or overhang each other. And I definitely think of it this way as four spaces. But if you bring it out, if you try to find the length of this as a string, you'll find that there are 9 characters, some that literally connect to each other, and some that connect, and then there's a character, which I like to call plus box, that says get the previous character and stack it on top of the next one. This is sort of like a consonant combiner, and it exists in different forms across South Asia for connecting letters, but really that means that 4 individual characters come together to make one space. So there has to be a lot of documentation when you add a new language. To kind of cut to the chase, I created a basic crossword puzzle generator. It sort of randomly places things until it finds some matches and some crossword over. Is using Node.js, is using the canvas element. It's on NPM. But that was just one puzzle. How can I learn more in order to recover more languages? And I'm not going to possibly learn. I really tried to learn some Burmese, but I'm not going to learn, 5 or 6 different languages well enough to make really clever crossword puzzles. So one thing that I have done is I've been using Wikipedia. I find it really interesting how many Wikipedias there are out there, and you don't need to have that many articles to have enough content to generate puzzles. And to generate the clue, I was thinking I would have to do some really clever language extraction, natural language processing, but typically, no matter how it's written or pluralized in the description, usually the first sentence of a Wikipedia article describes the subject and puts the topic in bold. So even if it's a person and they're describing by their first name, last name, alternative name, stage name, they'll put that in bold so that when I write a clue, I can just replace what I've circled there in blanks. So that makes it into a clue. So here's a simple English Wikipedia puzzle, which was generated completely hands-off by me. 2005 American movie, a play by Christopher Marlowe, puzzle video game made by Valve Corporation. These are really good clues, but they're combined with some things which are quite difficult, like a Brazilian businessman and cardiologist, a town in the county of Lancashire, and a commune in the Picardy region. So it really is choosing articles at random, and even though these are not very technical articles, they're things that you wouldn't even very easily be able to look up without looking up the exact text. And as I was adding languages, I did sort of a side path into Arabic script. So I released a package called Aleph Toolkit, which helps with getting right to left script working, also splitting an Arabic Unicode string into either splitting it by white spaces between characters or kind of combining uh, the la character, which is kind of two characters in one, or adding if there's dash kill marks, it puts them together. Sort of a technical thing. But I'm interested in doing that because if you look back to some of the languages that are on Wikipedia, you could use that to create crossword puzzles in Pashto or Farsi in areas that are very poorly served by mainstream education. So it'd be really interesting if you could generate educational content just from repurposing Wikipedia text. Ongoing issues, like I showed you, I like to avoid obscurity. No more clues that are really difficult to figure out just because they're not very relevant topics. Making categories right now is just so wide and broad. The topic sort of are all over the place. It'd be nice if a teacher or other person could say, I want this to be about animals or cities or countries, and have that work. And that would also be interesting if that could carry over. So even in languages that haven't built up complicated Wikipedia categories and things such like that, that it'll transfer over. And if you say, I want animal names in Burmese, then it would also be able to generate that. And maybe instead of using the first sentence, if people have like NLP knowledge, maybe they could expand that coverage and learn more about or make the clues a little bit better.